What if a physical object could carry the memory of supreme human suffering? My friend, the eccentric collector Lionel Dacre, possessed such a relic. A funnel of rigid black leather, bearing the name of one of history's most notorious poisoners. He believed that this object, used during a gruesome torture 300 years ago, retained a psychic atmosphere that could invade the mind of anyone who slept near it. I dismissed it as occult fantasy until the moment I woke up screaming with the taste of stagnant water and the knowledge of a torturer's cruel smile branded onto my soul.
The narrative begins with a visit to Paris, to the home of my friend, Lionel Dacre. Dacre was an eccentric figure, a man obsessed with the study of occult psychology and the collection of antiquities tied to extreme human emotion. His apartment was a labyrinth of bizarre artifacts and ancient texts. The centerpiece of his collection and the focus of our terror was a large black leather funnel. The leather was rigid with age, its seams cracked, and it possessed a discolored brass rim. Its narrow spout was marked by strange, subtle tears and lacerations. Dacre revealed that the object had belonged to Nicolas de la Reynie, the notorious lieutenant general of police under Louis XIV, an officer deeply involved in the darkest secrets of the French court.
Dacre, a serious scholar of the mind, explained his theory. Objects associated with supreme paroxysms of human emotion retained a psychic atmosphere. This residual energy, he posited, could be directly transmitted to a sensitive individual during the defenseless state of sleep. He was convinced this leather funnel was charged with the essence of pure, agonizing terror. He managed to convince me, a skeptic yet fascinated, to participate in a macabre experiment. I was to sleep for one night with the heavy, cold leather funnel placed directly beside my pillow.
The experiment worked with a terrifying efficacy. I immediately plunged into a vivid nightmare. The scene was set in a chamber that resembled a sterile, high-walled vault, cold and claustrophobic.
3 solemn judges presided over the room, their faces shadowed and implacable. Before them stood the accused, a blonde woman whose features suggested confidence, yet hinted at a subtle underlying cruelty. The judgment was swift, and the judges departed, leaving the condemned to her fate.
A single executioner then dominated the chamber. He was tall, thin, and austere, his leather apron and vestments gleaming with grease and spotted with stains. He was a figure of cold, methodical malice. The woman was roughly secured to a wooden trestle, lying flat on her back, utterly helpless. A terrified priest fled the scene, unable to bear the coming horror. Assistants entered, carrying heavy wooden buckets filled with water. The executioner approached the woman.
My dream reached its agonizing climax as a tall assistant took the black leather funnel. With horrible energy, he thrust the narrow spout into the woman's mouth. The intent was clear. The torture by water, the infamous question extraordinaire, was about to begin. I woke up screaming. The horrific knowledge of what was coming, the forced ingestion of gallons of water, the sensation of drowning from the inside, jolting me violently back to reality. The silence of Docker's apartment was a welcome relief from the screams of my nightmare.
Shaken and breathless, I recounted the entire nightmare to Dacre. He listened intently, his eyes alight with a terrifying satisfaction. He immediately confirmed my worst suspicions. The dream was not fiction. It was a perfect historical recreation.
Dacre revealed that my vision described the final interrogation of Marie-Madeleine d'Aubray, the Marquise de Brinvilliers, in 1676. She was a notorious figure, infamous for poisoning her father and 2 brothers for inheritance. The funnel, the object of my torment, was the very instrument used to force her to swallow the water during her question extraordinaire. Dacre then took the funnel and pointed out a nearly invisible inscription on the brass rim. The initials MMDADB, Marquise de Brinvilliers, and the subtle crest of a marchioness. The terror was cemented when Dacre pointed to the black, rigid spout. The narrow leather was marked by tiny tears and lacerations, which Dacre concluded were left by the Marquise's teeth in her last desperate struggle against the terrible leather funnel. The object had not only retained the memory of her fear, but the physical evidence of her agony. The funnel was more than a relic. It was a physical receptacle of human torment. But how could a 300-year-old piece of leather perfectly transmit the full sensory and emotional experience of a woman's final, terrified moments? Was Dacre's theory correct? Do objects truly retain the psychic residue of supreme emotion, acting as dark batteries that can shock the human mind? And if an object used for torture can replay the suffering of its victim, what silent, forgotten relics might be lying in your own attic, charged with an emotional residue, waiting for you to fall asleep? Leave your thoughts on Dacre's theory in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Shadow Tales Illustrated for more dark chronicles from the edge of reality.